Okay, here we are with Chapter 48, The Return. The robot's feelings of worry and confusion and guilt went away as soon as she heard her son's voice echoing across the farm. "Ma, we're back!" Brightbill's flock appeared above the pasture, flapping and honking and laughing. They glided down to Roz, and Brightbill took his place on his mother's shoulder. "I told you we'd keep your son out of trouble," squawked Loudwing. "Thank you, everyone," the robot spoke in her most cheerful voice. "It's so good to see you all of you again." The cows trotted over, grinning and happily mooing to the geese, while the herd and the flock caught up with each other. Roz and Brightbill slipped away to speak privately. "What's the plan, Ma?" said Brightbill. "The plan is simple," said Roz. "Tonight, under the cover of darkness, I will run away from this farm, and then you and I will begin our journey home." Oh my goodness, I can't believe she's actually going to do it. Chapter 49, The Goodbyes. That evening was full of sad goodbyes. The first goodbye was between the flock and their young leader. The other geese wanted to help Roz and Brightbill get home, but the journey would be dangerous, and Brightbill refused to put his flock at risk. He demanded that they return to the island without him. The geese could feel their instincts urging them onward, and they knew Roz and Brightbill would look after each other, so they said their goodbyes and took off into the night sky. The next goodbye was between the robot and the cows. Roz marched into the pasture one last time as the herd gathered around. "I guess this is it," said the robot. "Thank you all for being so kind to me." Annabelle sniffled and said, "I really hate goodbyes, but I'm glad you're going home where you belong. I just wish there was some way that I could be helpful." "Actually, there is something you can do." Roz unsnapped a pocket of her tool belt and took out the transmitter. "You can hold on to this for me. Hopefully it will take a few days for Mr. Sharif to realize I am gone." Annabelle smiled as the robot gently tucked the small device under her collar. Lily and the other calves suddenly swarmed around Roz and nuzzled her legs. They all had tears in their eyes. Tess wanted to lighten the mood, but she couldn't think of anything funny to say. The other cows called out to their friends, "We'll miss you, Roz. Get home safely. Don't forget about us." Roz waved to the herd. She said a silent goodbye to all of the farm machines parked in the shed. Then she followed the driveway out to the fields, with Brightbill on her shoulder and the children at her side. The last goodbye was the hardest of all. Everyone was quiet as they walked through the silvery moonlight, past rows and rows of sprouting crops, and out to the furthest quarter of the furthest field. Roz turned and faced Jaya and Jade. She looked past them, back to the distant lights of the farm buildings. "I have prepared the farm for my departure," said Roz, "and it will take care of itself for a while, but not forever." "We can manage things, at least until we get another robot," said Jade. "This place won't be the same without you, but we'll be okay." "What will you tell your father?" said Roz. "That's for us to worry about," said Jaya. "You just worry about getting home." Roz glanced down at the tool belt strapped across her chest. "Would you like this back?" "No, we would not," said Jade. "It was a gift just for you," said Jaya. The girl pulled her brother and her robot into a big, tight hug. Beneath the sounds of the crickets were the sounds of the children crying. Oh, they just love Roz. How will we know that you've made it home?" said Jade. "We need to know how your story ends," said Jaya. The robot muttered some animal words to her son, and then said to the children, "If a goose ever visits this farm and presents you with a feather, you will know that I am home." The children smiled through their tears and waited for their friends to leave. But the robot didn't move. More than anything, Roz wanted to go home, and yet she was conflicted. She cared about this family and this farm, and now she was abandoning them. The robot lurched forward, then backward again and again, as her computer brain struggled with all these thoughts and feelings. Finally, the children gave her the gentle push she needed. "Roz, we order you to run away." And the robot did just as she was told. Chapter 50, The Free Robot. At long last, Roz was free. But as she ran away from Hilltop Farm, she didn't feel free. She felt something more like fear. She feared being seen and captured and destroyed. She feared for her son's safety. So Roz camouflaged herself. She avoided the fields and kept to the trees. And with Brightbill as her guide, she carefully crept north through farm country. The wild robot's long journey to home had begun. Chapter 51, The Airship. The sun was up, and our friends were on the move. They were traveling quickly and quietly along a narrow strip of forest that cut between vast crop fields. If not for the nagging fear of being spotted, it would have been a very pleasant hike. Wind whispered through the leaves. Insects hummed and chirped. Farm machines rumbled in the distance. And then there came a new sound. A buzzing sound. Our friends hid in the underbush as an airship rose up from the horizon ahead of them. It was a sleek, white triangle, flying low and fast. Roz adjusted her vision and saw familiar robots gazing out of the front windows. Rico 1, Rico 2, and Rico 3 had been destroyed back on the island. Perhaps these robots were Ricos 4, 5, and 6. "They're flying toward Hilltop Farm," said Brightbill. "We need to keep moving," said Roz. The airship disappeared to the south, and the travelers continued north at a faster pace. They hurried through more strips of forest, passing squirrels and birds and groundhogs and other friendly creatures, but the robot and the goose had no time to chat. Later that day, the trees came to an abrupt end. Roz and Brightbill stood at the forest edge and faced an ocean of wheat. The wheat was still young and green. It gently waved in the wind and spread out as far as they could see. "What should we do?" asked Brightbill. "We need to keep moving," said Roz, staring across the plains. "But I am not safe in the open. There must be more trees out there somewhere." "I'll take a look," said Brightbill, and the goose launched himself skyward. Up, up, up he went, high into the air, until he finally stopped and floated, just a tiny wing shape against the blue, and then he dove back to his mother. "There are trees in that direction," said Brightbill, pointing. "It's far, about 30 minutes at top speed." Then we had better get started," said Roz. Our friends burst out from the underbush, the robot sprinting through the field, the goose flying by her side. Roz had to concentrate to keep from slipping in the soft, muddy soil, but she stomped on. And far ahead, another line of trees slowly climbed into view. Brightbill suddenly swooped up and out of sight as his mother kept running. Then he lowered back down beside her and squawked, "The airship is returning!" Behind them, a tiny white triangle rose up from the horizon. It was growing larger and louder by the second. If Roz was seen, her newfound freedom and her life would be over. She couldn't take any chances. "Go on without me," hollered the robot, and she dropped to the ground. Brightbill hoped his mother knew what she was doing, and he flew on without her. Once he reached the trees, he perched himself on a branch and looked back. His mother had vanished. The airship, however, seemed to fill the sky. Its shadow fitted across the ground where Roz had been. But the ship didn't see her, and it detected no electronic signal, so it kept going, racing above the trees and over the next field. Its engine noise gradually faded, and it disappeared to the north. "You can come out, Ma," squawked Brightbill from his branch. A column of wheat stood up in the field. The robot had rushed her camouflage, and it crumbled off her body. When she started to march. As she approached the trees, Roz looked at Brightbill in the branches and said, "We need to keep moving." Oh, that was a close one. Chapter 52, The Scout. Would the airship return? Were the Ricos hunting for Roz? Was it only a matter of time before she was caught? It was impossible to know, so our friends tried not to worry about those troubling questions, and they continued sneaking through farm country from one wooded area to the next. Roz wore a disguise of mud and weeds and bark. At the first hint of trouble, she would freeze, and instantly became a rotten old tree trunk. Then she'd wait for Brightbill to tell her that it was safe to move on. If there were humans or robots nearby, she might have to wait for hours. Back on the island, Brightbill had practiced flying like hawks and owls and sparrows and vultures. He couldn't fly exactly like those other birds, of course, but he was an expert at diving and swooping and darting and soaring. Now he used those skills to secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return a short time later to share his findings. "We're coming to another farmhouse. Let's avoid it by cutting across the field. Beyond these trees is a highway. Stay here and I'll tell you when it's safe to cross. Straight ahead is a small town, but I can lead you around it." Brightbill's advice was always good, and Roz always followed it, and together the travelers safely made their way through farm country. Chapter 53, The Farm Country. During their travels, our friends passed every kind of farm imaginable. Some farms grew crops in vast fields and orchards. Others grew crops in great glimmering greenhouses. Some farms let their animals graze through open pastures. Others kept their animals confined to small enclosures. Some farms had old-fashioned barns and sheds. Others had modern laboratories that made meat, eggs, and milk without any animals at all. There seemed to be an infinite number of ways to produce food for humans. The farms were teeming with robot workers, and Roz couldn't resist spying on them as she carefully slunk past. The robots worked the fields and machines and livestock, their bodies shining in the sun, shimmering in the heat. This must have been how Roz looked back at Hilltop Farm. Were any of these robots like her? Were any of them quietly dreaming of escape? Or were they all just mindless machines, content with their place in the world? Chapter 54. The Mountains. The flat plains of farm country gradually rolled up into hills and valleys. There were fewer crop fields and more forests. The hills grew taller, the valleys sank deeper, the farms disappeared entirely. Our friends had reached the mountains. Brightbill floated on the wind as Roz climbed the slopes. They passed cringy rock formations and rushing waterfalls and meadows lush with flowers. The robot could have hiked on and on, never slowing or stopping, but the goose needed to rest. As the stars came out each evening, they found a safe location to settle down. Frost was common in the higher regions, and Roz took the lighter from her tool belt and built small campfires to keep her son warm. They sat around the crackling flames, reminiscing about life on the island, until Brightbill drifted off to sleep. As the sun came up each morning, they'd clear away all traces of their campfire and set off again, deeper into the mountains. Eagles perched on jagged cliffs. Fish splashed through gurgling streams. Chipmunks bickered in the thick undergrowth. It felt good to be back in the wilderness. But this place wasn't home, so the travelers kept a brisk pace. The robot adjusted her camouflage to match her surroundings. In the forest, she wore leaves and tree bark. In the meadows, she wore grass and wildflowers. In the rocky terrain, she wore dirt and weeds. Even way out there in the wilderness, she wanted to go unseen. What Roz didn't realize was that she was already being watched. Dum, da, da, dum. I wonder what's going to happen. Okay, we'll pick up on chapter 55 after the break. Be sure to answer your discussion question.